I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Just one little vibration on the edge of the table, like a whisper trying not to disturb me. I almost didn't look. Thought it might be another bank alert or some useless group chat I never checked anymore. But something pulled my eyes to it. The message was from my daughter, Rachel. I hadn't heard from her in nearly 3 weeks. Not since she and I argued on the phone about her fiancé, Carter. The man I had only met twice. The man who, in my opinion, was hiding something behind that too smooth smile. But nothing prepared me for the words that glowed on my screen. Don't come to my wedding. Please respect this. That was it. No, Mom. No explanation. Just an order and a request. Cold, typed in silence, like I wasn't even human anymore. My fingers trembled as I read it again. Then again. Surely there was some mistake. A draft accidentally sent. A message meant for someone else. But I knew better. This wasn't a typo. This was intentional. This was a cut. My own daughter was telling me not to show up at the most important day of her life. She was walking down an aisle without me. And from the sound of it, she wanted it that way. I stared at the message until the words blurred. And then, I did something I hadn't done in a very long time. I dialed a number. It rang 3 times before he picked up. Janet. His voice. Still deep. Still familiar. Still carrying the same weight it always had, like every word cost him something. Thomas, I said, barely breathing. She told me not to come. Silence. Then, I got the same message. My knees gave out. I sat on the floor, laundry scattered around me, heart pounding like it was trying to climb out of my chest. She's serious, isn't she? I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Let me explain. Rachel is my only child. The only person I've ever loved without conditions. The person I carried, raised, protected, even when she didn't want protection. Her father, Thomas, and I divorced when Rachel was 11. Not because of some big betrayal or explosive affair. We simply wore each other down. Year after year, resentment replaced love like dust covering a photograph. We didn't scream. We just stopped trying. But one thing we never stopped doing was loving Rachel. And now it seemed she had stopped loving us. I spent that night pacing the kitchen. The lights were off. I didn't need them. The house had its own rhythm. I knew every creak in the floor, every sigh of the old windows. But nothing sounded right anymore. Not with those words echoing in my head. Don't come to my wedding. I poured myself tea. I didn't drink it. I sat on the couch. I didn't rest. I watched the sunrise without even realizing I had made it through the night without sleep. By morning I had made up my mind. I was going to find out the truth. First I called her best friend Mia. Mia, sweetheart, it's Janet. Long pause. Hi, Mrs. Blake. Her voice was tight. Careful. Like she already knew why I was calling. I'm sorry to bother you, I said, keeping my voice calm, but I got a message from Rachel last night. She told me not to come to the wedding. No explanation. Just that. Mia exhaled on the other end. She's been having a hard time. What kind of hard time? I pressed. She says you're judging her. That you made her feel small. Like she was making a mistake. My heart cracked. Because I asked questions about Carter? She took it as criticism. I was worried, I said, my throat tight. That's my job. I'm her mother. She doesn't see it that way right now, Mia whispered. I closed my eyes. There it was again. The wedge. After Mia hung up, I sat in the hallway with a shoebox full of old photographs. Rachel's first steps. Her first piano recital. Her first heartbreak when she came to me sobbing over some boy in 10th grade who said she wasn't pretty enough. I held a picture of us at the beach, her hair wild from the wind, her arms around my neck, both of us laughing. We looked like we belonged to each other. Now, I wasn't even invited to watch her say, I do. I didn't want to ruin her day. I didn't want to cause a scene. But I also couldn't sit here in silence while she rewrote history and shoved me out of her life. I needed answers. And there was only one person who could give them. I dialed Carter's number next. He didn't answer. So I left a message. This is Janet, Rachel's mother. I'm not calling to fight. I just need to understand why she thinks I shouldn't be there. Please call me back. He never did. That evening Thomas called me back. I've been thinking, he said. We need to do something. Not show up at the wedding, no. But, something. Like what? asked Hollow. Talk to her in person. Before the wedding. She still hasn't picked up my calls, but I know where she's staying this week. She's at Carter's sister's place in Havenbrook. I paused. That's 3 hours away. Then we better leave early. And just like that, two parents, divorced, wounded, and confused, got in a car together, chasing the daughter who had blocked them out. The drive was quiet at first. Thomas fiddled with the air vents like he always did when nervous. I watched the trees blur by. Every now and then one of us would start to speak, but the words would fall apart halfway. Finally he said, I don't know how we got here. I do, I replied softly. We stopped listening to her. And she stopped trusting us. I never meant to hurt her. Me neither. We pulled into Havenbrook just before dark. Her car was in the driveway. Lights were on inside. I sat frozen in the passenger seat. Do we knock? Thomas asked. No, I said. I knock. I walked to the door, hands shaking. I raised my fist. And then, the door opened before I touched it. Rachel stood there. My daughter. My baby. Wearing pajamas and holding a mug of tea. Her eyes met mine, and in them I didn't see joy. I didn't see regret. I saw something much worse. I saw fear. I stared at Rachel in the doorway. My daughter, now a grown woman, stood barefoot in soft blue pajamas. She looked like the little girl I once rocked to sleep after thunderstorms. But the look in her eyes, now distant, tight, was something I'd never seen before. Behind me, Thomas stayed by the car, watching, not wanting to step in unless invited. That was always his way. He waited for permission to care. Rachel took one slow breath. Why are you here? I didn't speak right away. I got your message, I said finally. She nodded once. I figured. I needed to see your face when I asked why. She shifted. Her body blocked the doorway like she was guarding something. Or someone. Now's not a good time, Mom. My heart sank. Then tell me when is. Because being told not to come to your wedding without warning or explanation is not something I can just sit with. Her lips pressed together and she looked behind her shoulder into the house. I couldn't see much, just a hallway and what looked like boxes stacked by the stairs. Then she stepped outside, pulling the door halfway shut behind her. She crossed her arms. I didn't want to do this like this, she muttered. Then how? I asked. Through a text. You think that's the way you handle something like this? I knew you'd talk me out of it, she snapped. Talk you out of what? Inviting your own mother to your wedding. To my life, she whispered. Talk me out of living my life. My chest tightened. Is that what you think I do? It's what you've always done, Mom. Ever since I told you about Carter. I didn't respond right away. She needed to say it. You don't like him, she said. You don't trust him. You never even gave him a chance. I tried, I replied. Twice. But both times he acted like I wasn't even in the room. Because he knows you don't respect him. I don't know him. That's the problem, Rachel. And when I asked questions, you shut me down. Her eyes flicked away. Because you weren't asking to understand. You were asking to control. That stung more than I expected. I looked past her at the boxes inside. Are you moving? We're sorting stuff before the wedding. A lot's changing. Clearly. She sighed and rubbed her forehead. Look, you and Dad showing up like this. It's not helping. Then help me understand, I said gently. Help me see what I've missed. She hesitated. Then she looked down at the ground, voice dropping low. He doesn't want you there. The air between us went still. He doesn't, what? Carter. He asked me not to invite you. Or Dad. My throat went dry. Why? He says, he doesn't want conflict. Doesn't want tension on our day. I stared at her. And you agreed to that? I had to, she whispered. You don't understand, Mom. He's had a hard life. He doesn't trust people easily. My heart twisted. And I'm supposed to believe I'm the threat? She looked at me then, truly looked. And in that moment I saw something buried deep in her eyes. Fear. Not just the kind that comes from conflict, but the kind that comes from control. Quiet, creeping control. And I realized, this wasn't just about a wedding. This was about Carter. Rachel moved to go back inside. Wait, I said, stepping forward. Are you happy? She stopped, her hand on the doorknob. I repeated it softer this time. Are you happy, Rachel? She didn't answer. Instead she said, "Please just let me have this. It's my choice." I swallowed. Choices made in fear aren't really choices. Her fingers trembled slightly on the doorknob. "I love you," I said. She turned just enough to say, "I know." Then she went inside. And the door closed. I walked back to the car slowly. Thomas looked at me, eyes asking the question I didn't want to answer. "She said Carter doesn't want us there," I said, settling into the passenger seat. His jaw tightened. "He told her that?" She agreed. He didn't speak. Just started the car and pulled away from the curb. We didn't talk for a long time. Then finally I said what I had been holding back. "There's something wrong." He nodded once. I felt it too. Back at my house I stared at my phone for hours. I debated calling Rachel again, sending her a message, trying to explain myself one more time. But what was left to say when your child willingly chose to shut the door? So I did something else. I pulled out the old photo album from the bottom of the hallway cabinet. The one with Rachel's baby pictures. Birthday parties. School plays. Every stage of her life, captured and held. I flipped through slowly. And halfway through I stopped at one photo. Rachel, age 5, standing in her princess costume, smiling through missing teeth, with her arms wrapped tight around Thomas and me. A family before everything fractured. My hands started shaking. Because in that photo she looked fearless. No. She looked like a girl trying to keep herself from falling apart. That night I sat in the dark and prayed. Not the rehearsed kind of prayer. Not the kind you whisper before bed. The desperate kind. The kind where you don't even know who you're talking to, but you're begging the universe to give your child clarity, courage, protection. Anything. I didn't care about the wedding anymore. I just wanted her safe. The next morning Thomas called me early. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "What?" "She blocked my number." My breath caught. "You too?" he asked. I picked up my phone. Open our last thread. Typed, "I love you. I'll always be here. No matter what." I pressed send. A second later a gray bubble popped up. Message not delivered. Walked. Just like that. I don't remember crying. I just remember standing in the middle of my kitchen staring at the refrigerator like it held answers. But there were no answers in my house. Only silence. And a clock that kept moving forward toward a wedding I wasn't allowed to witness. The sound of silence in my house had changed. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy. Like every wall was leaning closer, pressing in, listening. I couldn't go into Rachel's old room without feeling like a trespasser. The pale pink walls, the bookshelf, the dusty stuffed bear on the dresser, they all belonged to a girl who no longer existed. Not the version I knew. And now I had no way to reach her. She had blocked my number. She had blocked her father's number. She was shutting out the very people who had raised her. And something about that didn't feel like a daughter's rebellion. It felt like a strategy. A plan. Not Rachel's. Carter's. I sat at the kitchen table all morning, replaying every conversation I had ever had with Carter in my mind. There weren't many, and maybe that was the problem. He had always been quiet around me. Not shy. Calculated. He smiled just enough. Spoke just enough. But never shared much. He was polite in the way a doctor is before giving you bad news. And now I couldn't stop wondering, was this man isolating my daughter? I picked up the phone again and scrolled through old texts. No new messages. No replies. And then something happened I hadn't expected. A name popped up on my screen. Mia. Rachel's best friend. I answered fast. "Hello. Hi, Mrs. Blake. I know I shouldn't be calling, but..." Her voice was low. Nervous. "But what?" I asked. She paused. "I don't think Rachel's okay." Mia met me at a quiet cafe downtown, wearing sunglasses and holding her phone like a lifeline. Her hands shook a little as she sipped her iced coffee. "I haven't told anyone I'm meeting you," she said, looking around. "Rachel would be furious." "I'm glad you came," I said. "Please, tell me everything." Mia glanced down at the table. I didn't notice it at first. Carter was charming. Polite. But after they got engaged, Rachel changed. She started pulling away. She stopped calling. She'd cancel plans last minute. I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed with wedding stuff. "But..." I pressed. Mia's eyes met mine. "She's not allowed to see people unless he approves it." My stomach dropped. She told me that one night after a fight. Said she wasn't allowed to go out unless it was with him or his sister. That he checks her phone. That he gets angry when she wears certain things. I felt ice in my blood. She said she loved him, but Mia wiped her eyes. But she sounded scared. I reached across the table and gripped her hand. You did the right thing telling me. Mia leaned in. There's more. What? She wanted to leave him. A month ago. I swear. She called me in the middle of the night and said she didn't think she could do it. That he was too much. Too intense. Did she leave? Mia shook her head. The next morning she texted me that everything was fine. And when I asked her about it, she said I was overreacting. I closed my eyes. She's trapped, I whispered. Mia nodded. And now she's marrying him. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every sound outside sent my heart racing. Every time the wind touched the house, I thought I heard Rachel crying. I sat in her old room, holding a photo of her 8th birthday party. She had cake on her nose and ribbons in her hair. I would have done anything to protect her then. I had to do something now. I called Thomas first thing in the morning. We have a problem, I said. I'm listening. I told him everything Mia said. He was quiet for a long time. Then finally, we need proof. What do you mean? If we're going to stop this wedding, if we're going to get her away from him, we need something solid. Something we can show someone. Something that forces her to see it too. I'm not even sure she'll believe us, I said. She won't, he said. Not yet. But if we can catch him, if we can show her what he's doing. He trailed off. And I knew what he was suggesting. We needed to go deeper. I called Clara, a family friend and former legal assistant who now ran her own private research business. She had once helped a woman escape a marriage like this. Quietly, carefully. I told her about Carter. I told her about Rachel. I can't promise anything, she said. But I'll look into him. The days passed like smoke. I cooked meals I didn't eat. Washed clothes I didn't wear. Walked from room to room trying to find something, anything, that felt like stability. Nothing did. Then one afternoon Claire called. I found something, she said. My heart jumped. Carter was married before. Briefly. 2 years ago. A woman named Melissa Harrow. I blinked. What happened? They divorced. No public court filings on abuse, but there are sealed records. What kind of records? Restraining orders. Filed and then quickly withdrawn. I froze. She tried to get away. And then, she didn't. I whispered, do you have a way to contact her? I already did. She agreed to speak to you. The next morning I met Melissa at a quiet park across town. She was in her early 30s. Soft-spoken. Eyes like glass, clear but fragile. I won't speak badly of anyone, she said. But I will speak truth. I nodded. Carter is charming, she began. At first. And then slowly he starts rewriting your world. One rule at a time. One restriction. He loves deeply but he demands control. And if you don't give it, he punishes you emotionally. I swallowed hard. He isolated me. Told me my friends were toxic. That my family didn't understand our love. I believed him. Did he hurt you? I asked gently. She didn't answer with words. He just rolled up her sleeve. The bruise was old. But unmistakable. I stayed because I was ashamed, she whispered. And then I left. Because I finally believed I was worth more. Rachel doesn't see it yet, I said. She won't, Melissa replied. Not until he makes a mistake. And that's when I knew. We had to catch him in the act. The wedding was 5 days away. 5 days until my daughter walked down an aisle I wasn't invited to. 5 days until she stood beside a man I no longer doubted was dangerous. 5 days until Rachel signed herself into something she might never escape from. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Couldn't breathe without feeling like time was closing in around me. But I had one advantage now. Melissa. Her story. Her scars. Her fear, they matched everything Rachel had started showing. And I had Clara who'd now begun looking into Carter's finances. Social records. Hidden connections. If I couldn't stop this wedding with love, maybe I could stop it with truth. Thomas and I met in my driveway that morning. No words at first. He just handed me a to-go coffee and nodded toward the car. She's staying at Carter's family's cottage in Hillside, he said. Same place they'll hold the wedding. I thought it was at a venue? He said. They canceled it last minute. Said it was too formal. Now it's a private garden event. No guests outside his circle. Not even Mia. I frowned. Why is he trying to cut her off from everyone? Thomas didn't answer. As we both already knew. The plan wasn't perfect. But it was something. Thomas would drive to Hillside and scope out the cottage from the nearby hiking trail. See who was coming and going. Clara had a contact in private surveillance. A woman named Darcy, who could document Carter's movements from a safe distance. And I was going to talk to Melissa again. This time on camera. She met me at Clara's house. Melissa was nervous, but she understood the stakes. I don't want to ruin anyone's life, she said. But if I can keep Rachel from becoming another me. She sat in front of Clara's old camcorder and spoke carefully, clearly, with no drama. Just truth. She told of the quiet insults Carter used to chip away at her self-worth. The accusations. The controlling behavior. The final night, when he slammed a door so hard it broke a mirror. How she filed for a restraining order the next day and how Carter convinced her to drop it in exchange for a clean divorce. I'm not saying he'll do the same thing to Rachel, she said. But people like him, they don't stop until they own you. I thanked her. Hugged her tightly. Told her she was brave. But deep down I worried. Because I didn't know if Rachel would even watch the video. That evening I stared at her old number in my phone even though I was blocked. Then I opened my email app and tried something different. I sent the video. No subject line. No message. Just the clip. I didn't know if it would reach her. But it was all I had left to offer. The next morning Thomas called me from Hillside. I saw him, he said. Carter. Yeah. He was yelling. My chest tightened. At Rachel? No. Into his phone. Pacing near the front porch like a storm cloud. Did she come out? No sign of her all day. The curtains are drawn. I swallowed. You think he's keeping her in there? I don't want to say it, but... He didn't finish the sentence. Darcy sent Clara photos later that afternoon. One showed Carter standing over Rachel on the porch, finger in her face. Another showed Rachel holding a small suitcase, then putting it down. And another, a blurred shot of Carter throwing something behind a hedge. We didn't know what it was. But it was enough. Enough to prove that things weren't right. By evening I was pacing again. I needed to go there. Needed to stand in front of my daughter and show her what we'd found. But Thomas convinced me to wait just one more night. Clara had arranged for local police to be made aware, discreetly. If things go south, she said, they'll be ready. It made me sick that we were even saying things like that. Then just past midnight a message came. Not from Rachel's number. From a new one. The message read, Mom, it's me. I saw the video. I need help. My hands shook. I called the number immediately. She picked up after 2 rings. Her voice was quiet. Choked. I saw it. The woman. Melissa. Everything she said, it's happening to me. I didn't see it before, I swear. I thought I was just being dramatic. My heart broke all over again. You're not dramatic. You're strong. I don't know how to leave, she whispered. He has my phone. My car keys. He says if I walk away now, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Where is he now? In the shower. I locked myself in the guest room and found a backup phone Carter's sister kept for emergencies. We're coming, I said. No, she cried. He can't know. If he sees you, he'll lose it. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Hey, then you'll come to us. Tell me how to find you. She gave me directions to a trail behind the cottage. 30 minutes, she said. If I'm not there, call the police. I love you, I said. I love you too. Then the line went dead. Thomas and I arrived at Hillside in 23 minutes flat. We parked on a gravel turnoff near the trail. Waited. Each second felt like a countdown to something I couldn't name. Then in the darkness a shape emerged. Hair pulled back. Eyes red. Backpack over her shoulder. Barely able to walk straight from shaking. I ran to her. Held her as tight as I could. And for the first time in months she cried in my arms. We took her straight to Clara's. Clara made tea. Thomas made calls. I stayed by Rachel's side like a shield. She didn't say much that night. Just rested. And I watched her sleep the way I had when she was a child, worried she'd wake up crying from some nightmare. Except this time the nightmare was real. And it had a name. Carter. I sat on the edge of the guest room bed watching Rachel sleep. The sun had just started to rise, casting pale light through the curtains. She was still curled up, her arms around her backpack like it was the only piece of herself she could trust. I hadn't slept. Not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. I wanted to be awake in case she stirred, in case she called my name in her sleep the way she used to after childhood nightmares. But Rachel didn't make a sound. Only once did she twitch and whisper, "Don't yell." I gripped the arm of the chair so tight my fingers went numb. When she finally opened her eyes, she didn't speak. She just looked around slowly like she wasn't sure where she was. I gave her time. "You're safe," I said quietly. She nodded. That was it. She sat up, slow and stiff, like her body had forgotten how to move freely. Her first words were, "Do you think he's looking for me?" I swallowed hard. "Probably." Rachel rubbed her arms. "He has my phone. He'll text everyone. He'll make it sound like I ran off. Or like I'm unstable. He's good at that. Let him try," I said. "We're better than his stories." He smiled barely. But that half-second of softness reminded me that my daughter was still in there, under all the damage. Then she asked, "Does Dad know?" I nodded. "He waited outside last night. He didn't want to overwhelm you." Rachel bit her lip. "I thought he hated Carter. He didn't trust him. There's a difference." She stared down at her knees. He was right. Later that morning we gathered in Clara's kitchen. Rachel sat between Thomas and me, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she didn't drink. "I want to report him," she said. "But I'm scared." Thomas looked at her gently. "You don't have to do it alone." "I just don't know what to say," she whispered. "It's not like he hit me. He didn't break bones. But he broke me in other ways." Clara stepped in. "That still counts." Rachel looked up at her. "Control, isolation, manipulation. Those are real forms of abuse. We can speak to someone today. A legal advocate. A therapist. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen." Rachel finally nodded. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." By noon, Clara had arranged for Rachel to meet with a counselor from a local women's advocacy group. They talked for nearly 2 hours. When she came out, her eyes were puffy, but there was a calmness in her walk I hadn't seen in a long time. He handed me a brochure. "They're going to help me with legal steps." "Good," I said. "You're doing the hard part. We'll handle the rest." Thomas had already started contacting a lawyer Clara recommended. And by that evening, Carter had officially been served with a restraining order. He hadn't responded yet. But we knew it wouldn't be long. That night, Rachel and I lay on the pull-out bed in the guest room like we used to during power outages. "Mom. Do you hate me?" I turned my head fast. "What?" "I shut you out. I hurt you. I told you not to come to my wedding. Her voice broke. "I blocked you." I placed my hand over hers. "Sweetheart, I don't hate you. I never could." "I was scared," she whispered. "He made me think you were the problem. He twisted everything." "I know," I said softly. "That's how they work." She turned toward me. There were moments I wanted to leave. But then he'd say something like, "No one else will ever love you like I do." And I'd stay. My chest ached. That's not love. That's control. She nodded. "I know that now." The next day the text messages started. Not to Rachel. To me. To Thomas. Even to Mia. Carter was unraveling. He sent messages like, "This is all a misunderstanding. Rachel is confused. I never hurt her. You people are ruining her life." And then, "She'll regret this." That last one was enough for the police to escalate the restraining order. He hadn't physically come near her. Not yet. But the digital harassment was enough. Rachel changed her number. Clara helped lock down her social accounts. And Thomas drove her to and from every appointment like clockwork. We were building a new fortress. One made of people who loved her, not people who wanted to own her. 3 days later, Rachel sat in the backyard with me, watching the wind blow through the garden. "I keep thinking about the wedding dress," she said. "What about it?" "I never liked it. Not once." I smiled sadly. "Then it's a good thing you never wore it." She looked at me, eyes filled with something fierce. "I don't want to disappear again." "You won't. I want to do something with this. Speak out. Help someone else. I placed my arm around her shoulders. You already are. She leaned her head against me. For the first time in months, she didn't look like someone broken. She looked like someone coming back to life. That evening, Thomas knocked on the front door. He looked tired. Hands in his pockets. Mind if I sit with her? I nodded. They sat on the porch together for nearly an hour. I watched from the window. At one point, Rachel wiped her eyes. Then they both laughed softly. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing. Later, as I made tea, Rachel came into the kitchen and said, "Mom, I want to write a letter." "To who?" "To myself," she said. "To remind me I made it out." I nodded. "And maybe someday you'll let someone else read it." She smiled. "Maybe." The wedding day came. But there was no wedding. No flowers. No dress. No vows. Just the silence of a plan that never reached the altar. Instead, Rachel spent the day at home, with me, Thomas, and Clara. We ate chocolate cake, watched old movies, and celebrated a different kind of milestone. Her freedom. The morning of what would have been Rachel's wedding arrived with rain. It wasn't violent or stormy. It was quiet, steady. A soft drizzle that tapped the roof gently, like the sky was reminding us that endings don't always come with thunder. I stood at the kitchen window watching it fall over the trees, the porch, the empty driveway. 1 week ago I had been blocked. 3 days ago I had held my daughter in my arms while she cried like a child. No. Now she was in the other room humming. Not loudly. Not joyfully. But gently. Like the hum was her way of sewing herself back together. Instead of white roses and a veil, Rachel wore sweatpants and a messy bun. She padded into the kitchen barefoot and asked, "Do you want pancakes or French toast?" I blinked. "Are you making breakfast?" "Don't get too excited. It might be a disaster," she said, pulling out a pan. I watched her carefully. Her hands moved slowly but without hesitation. Like a woman who hadn't forgotten who she was, just needed time to remember. She poured batter and added chocolate chips. "French toast is for milestones," she said. "This feels more like pancakes." I smiled. "This is a milestone." "I guess it is." We sat at the table in our pajamas and ate burnt pancakes. They were perfect. "I dreamt about him last night," she said quietly. "Carter." She nodded. "He was yelling. But this time I walked away." I put my fork down. She continued, "And when I walked out the door he tried to follow. But there was a wall. Not a physical one, just something that stopped him. He banged his fists. He screamed. But I kept walking." "And how did you feel?" She paused. "Free." My eyes welled up. She looked at me, serious now. "You saved me." I shook my head. "No. You saved yourself. I just showed up." By noon the rain stopped. Thomas arrived with a small bouquet of wildflowers and a takeout bag filled with pasta. "Celebration food," he said. "Not wedding food. That's important." Rachel hugged him tightly. There was no awkwardness anymore. No old wounds between them, just quiet understanding. She asked, "Do you think people will think I'm weak?" "For what?" he asked. "For running away. For leaving." He looked her straight in the eye. "They'll think you're brave. Because you are." She didn't respond. But her shoulders relaxed. That afternoon, we all sat on the porch as the sun broke through the clouds. Rachel pulled out a notebook. "What's that?" I asked. "The letter I told you about." She took a deep breath. Then she read. "To the woman I was before I left him. I know you're scared. I know you think staying is easier. I know he tells you no one else will love you like he does. But I want you to know he's wrong. There is life outside the cage. There is love outside the silence. You are more than the things he called you. You are more than the person he convinced you to become. And the second you decide to leave, you become powerful again." He closed the notebook. I couldn't speak. Thomas just nodded, a tear running down his cheek. Later, after dinner, Rachel went for a walk alone. She needed space, and this time it wasn't scary. She wasn't escaping anyone. She was walking because she could. And as I cleaned the dishes, I thought about everything that had brought us here. The text message. The fear. The secrecy. The helplessness. The fight. The recovery. She had gone from almost being someone else's prisoner to becoming her own protector. Rachel returned just after sunset. She walked in and handed me a small flat package. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a framed photo. Her, me, Thomas, and Clara. It had been taken just 2 days earlier, when we sat in the garden laughing at a story Thomas was telling. I hadn't realized Clara snapped it. Underneath the photo, a quote was printed. "This is the day I married myself back to my life." My hands trembled as I held it. "I didn't wear a dress," she said. "Didn't walk down an aisle. Didn't say vows. But I made a promise. To myself." I pulled her into a hug, holding her as tightly as I could. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "I'm finally proud of me too." That night she moved back into her old room temporarily. She said it felt like breathing again. She decorated the window with fairy lights, played her favorite songs, painted her nails red for the first time in months. Freedom came in pieces, but it came. 1 week later she officially filed a statement with the district attorney. It wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. Carter was now under a protective order and under review for harassment. Rachel didn't want to go to trial, and if he stayed away, the DA was willing to treat it as a civil matter. "I don't want to waste energy chasing justice," she told us. "I just want peace." She had already won the most important case, reclaiming her life. A few months passed. Rachel got a new job at a publishing company. She started therapy twice a week. She wrote a short piece anonymously for a women's advocacy website. It went viral. People shared it, quoted it, thanked her. She had become a voice for women who couldn't speak yet. She didn't hide anymore. She didn't flinch at loud voices. And she never apologized for taking up space. On her birthday we threw a small party. Just 10 people, her chosen family. She stood up after cake, holding a glass of sparkling water. "I want to make a toast," she said. "To my mom, for never giving up on me. To my dad, for watching over me even when I pushed him away. To Clara, for being a wall when I needed protection. And to myself for coming home." The room erupted in quiet claps and misty eyes. I've never seen her glow like that. Not even as a child. After everyone left, she sat beside me on the porch. The stars were out. "I want to take back that text," she said softly. "The one I sent you." "You don't have to," I replied. "I do. Because it was never about the wedding. It was about the part of me that thought I didn't deserve you." I took her hand. "You'll always deserve me," I said. "Even when you don't believe it." She nodded. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. "Open our thread." The old one, the one she had blocked me on. She unblocked it, typed one sentence, and handed me the phone. Read, "Come to everything." I laughed. I cried. I saved it. And that was the real wedding day. Not one with flowers or vows, but one where a mother and daughter finally found their way back to each other. And this time there was no aisle between us. Only love.